SeaWorld is keeping a close eye on a killer whale blamed for killing a trainer.
They called it just another Orca show until it became the last moments of Savannah Calloway. Today we're pulling back the curtain on the darker side of these trainers who came face to face with the sheer power of these ocean giants. From a Japanese trainer who thought mixing dolphins and orcas in the same tank was harmless to the first ever recorded attack, involving not one but two trainers at the same time. The attack that left a trainer dead, drowned by a killer whale, and then the last moments of Savannah Calloway eaten alive by an orca. But before we uncover that terrifying moment, let's begin with Estrella's blood in the blue. If you were in this stadium on March 15, 2007, you would have thought you were about to witness history in the making, not history stained in blood. The morning sun bounced off the surface of the performance pool at Mediterranean Marine World in Valencia, Spain. Trainers were buzzing around getting ready for the debut of a brand new 2 orca routine. Music, months of planning, countless rehearsals, not a single sign of trouble, at least not one anyone caught. The stars of the show, Estrella, a 19-foot female orca with a spotless performance record, and Matau, a 21 FT male, recently transferred. From France, they had been slowly introduced over 6 months from separate pools to full swim sessions together. By March, they were nailing their routines in perfect sync. Everyone believed they were ready. At 11:30 that morning, with 2,000 spectators, in their seats the gates opened. Estrella and Matau slid into the main pool, sleek black and white shapes gliding effortlessly through the water. The first half of the show was flawless, her soaring breaches, his powerful tail slaps. Applause. Music became the part of the show no one could have predicted. Both trainers, Rebecca Torres with Estrella, Michael Weber with Matau, slipped into the water for a synchronized swim. It should have been simple. Parallel paths, precise distance, but then Matau shifted, cutting across Estrella's line and putting himself between her and Rebecca. In the wild, that move screams dominance. In a confined pool, it was a challenge. Estrella moved without warning. She charged straight in, trapping Rebecca in the middle. In seconds, the pool erupted, water churning violently. Estrella clamped down on Rebecca's leg. Michael dove in to pull her free, but before he could reach her, Matau wrapped himself around Michael's torso. What followed lasted 4 minutes, but to the crowd it felt endless. Screams replaced cheers. The pool churned red in the icy 52 degrees water. Every rescue attempt failed. The orcas grew more aggressive each time staff got close. By 11:52 that morning, they finally dragged Rebecca from the water, but the damage was already done. A minute later, Michael surfaced too. Neither would live to see the sunset. It was the first time in history 2 trainers were killed in the same orca attack, and the last time Mediterranean Marine World ever staged a killer whale performance, Kaya's breaking point. This was meant to be a holiday spectacle in Japan, a show to dazzle families and draw applause. Instead, by the time it was over, the Pacific would run red. It was December 8, 2013. Kamagawa SeaWorld had what they called a brilliant idea: combine orcas and dolphins in the same performance. On paper, it sounded like groundbreaking entertainment. In reality, it was a ticking clock counting down to disaster. And sure, you already know where this is going now. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of the Pacific, and the stands are already crammed with eager faces, all waiting for this so-called groundbreaking display of interspecies teamwork. What they don't realize is that to the animals, this isn't teamwork. It's a territory waiting to be defended. Running the show that day was Robert Wilson, a former veterinary surgeon from Australia. Smart guy, been with the park for years, knows his animals. He's noticed something off with Kaya, the park's only orca. Weird swimming patterns, unusual sounds, and a new male dolphin in the mix, making her even more on edge. He even filed a warning that morning saying, "This is dangerous." But with holiday crowds and sold-out seats, management pushes forward. 2:30 in the afternoon, the show kicks off. Kaya's circling tighter than usual. 20 minutes in, Mizu, the new dolphin, drifts just a little too close into Kaya's territory. That's it. Switch flips. Robert sees it immediately, goes to intervene. Standard drill, but Kaya changes trajectory. She slams him into the water. Before he can even hit his emergency signal, she's on him, jaws crushing his torso. The audience goes from clapping to screaming in seconds. Blood in the water. Staff scramble, but the dolphins are panicking, making it impossible to drop rescue nets. 3 minutes. That's how long she toys with him, dragging him under, shaking him, bringing him back up just to take him under again. He's still trying to give commands in English and Japanese between attacks. Training instincts to the end. 2:53 p.m. She drives him to the bottom, pins him against the glass. Divers get him out, but it's too late. He's pronounced dead less than an hour later. The aftermath, mixed species shows with orcas banned in Japan, new global protocols, but for everyone there that day, it's burned into memory. A show meant to impress turned into a textbook, example of how ignoring animal instincts can kill. This wasn't just a trainer accident. This was nature's way of saying enough. Tilikum's tragic path. You see, tragedies don't just crash down out of nowhere. They whisper first. Little signs here, and there easy to miss, until suddenly they're too loud to ignore. Before that awful day that took Dawn Branchot's life, the warnings were already there. You could see them in the aggression, the changes in routine, and the strange, restless behavior. But to really understand how it all unfolded, we have to rewind the clock. We're going all the way back to the icy waters of Iceland in 1983. That's where it began. A young orca, barely 2 years old, was torn away from his family. One moment he was gliding through the open ocean. The next he was trapped inside a bare concrete tank at a marine zoo. The water didn't stretch far. The walls were too close, and the freedom he once had gone. Months later, he was shipped off to a park in British Columbia. At first it looked like an upgrade, but it wasn't. The pool was small, barely 26 feet wide, and he was dropped in with 2 older females who made it clear he didn't belong. They raked their teeth across his skin, leaving marks that didn't just hurt, they humiliated him. The stress made him sick, and the emotional wounds ran even deeper. Then came February 1991. A young trainer, Kelty Byrne, slipped into the water. What happened next is something witnesses still can't forget. She tried to get out, surfacing, grabbing for the edge, but the orcas kept pulling her back under. 10 minutes. That's how long it went on before she disappeared beneath the surface for good. Hours later, they recovered her body. Months after that, the park shut down. The orca Tilikum was sent to SeaWorld in Orlando. People hoped it would be a fresh start. It wasn't. One July morning in 1999, staff arrived to find a man's body draped across Tilikum's back. 27-year-old Daniel Dukes had snuck into the park overnight. No one saw what happened. No cameras caught it. Just another tragedy. Unexplained. Unsettling. Still the shows went on. The breeding continued. The cycle never broke. And then came the day. The day Tilikum pulled Dawn Branchot into the water in front of a live audience. Looking back, it's impossible to see these attacks as random. You take a wild, intelligent animal, lock it in a small tank, strip it from its family, and push it through. Years of isolation and stress. Something is bound to snap. Tilikum's rage didn't appear out of thin air. It was built over years, piece by piece, until there was no holding it back. Alexis Martinez and Quito. You know, Quito had never felt the wild. Ocean on his skin. Never hunted live prey, never moved with a pod through endless open water. His whole life had been concrete walls and trained routines. At Loro Parque in Tenerife, he was a star, a killer whale who could wow a stadium. Crowds came from everywhere just to watch him. But in 2009, something in him shifted. It was Christmas Eve. The park was getting ready for its holiday show. Quito was in the training pool with 29-year-old Alexis Martinez, a trainer who'd spent years with orcas. They knew each other well, and their performances always ran like clockwork. But that day, Quito seemed different. He missed a few moves, floated at the surface, silent and still. Alexis stayed close, maybe sensing something was off, but not knowing how far it would go. One of the staff noticed Quito sliding between Alexis and the stage platform, almost like he didn't want him to leave. Then came the signal for the next move. Alexis swam away. Quito followed, slow at first, then with more force. Another trainer on the side tried the usual control cues, but Quito ignored them. With the tip of his rostrum, he shoved Alexis to the bottom of the pool. Things went from tense to critical in seconds. Backup signals were fired off. Quito surfaced, took a breath, then dove again. This time he surfaced with Alexis balanced on his rostrum. His jaws clamped shut. Then, without warning, he released him, and Alexis sank slowly toward the bottom. Panic ripped through the team. Trainers scrambled to cut Quito off, but he stalled near the gate like he was toying with them. Only when a safety net dropped into the water did he finally move into another pool. That gave the team a window, just enough to pull Alexis's body from the bottom. His injuries were devastating. Internal bleeding, torn organs, broken bones, bite marks. There was nothing anyone could do, and here's the thing, it wasn't a complete shock. Experts had already warned about the stress inside Loro Parque's tanks. The whales were bored, frustrated, and socially unstable, with no dominant female to guide them. Their hierarchy was always in flux. They even tore strips from the tank, lining out of sheer boredom, Savannah Calloway. It began like one of those mornings where nothing feels out of place, the kind that you wouldn't in your slightest imagination think would end in tragedy. On this heavy, humid morning in late September of 2015, the Gulf Coast Marine Adventure Park in Biloxi, Mississippi, swung open its gates for another round of shows. The 5,000-seat stadium shimmered under the late summer sun, nearly full, the air thick with sunscreen and anticipation. Tourists fanned themselves lazily, not realizing they were minutes away from witnessing one of the darkest moments in marine park history. This wasn't just one of those everyday parks, founded in 2001 by a former marine biologist named Dr. James Henderson. It had grown from a modest rescue center into one of the Southeast's most celebrated marine attractions, and its crown jewel was Nova, a 25th female orca taken from Russian waters in 2008. At 8,500 lb, she was smaller than many performing orcas, but her unmatched speed and razor-sharp intelligence made her the star of every show. Her trainer, 31-year-old Savannah Calloway, had been with her since 2010. Savannah was born for this work. Raised along the Alabama coast, she'd spent her childhood helping at rescue centers, staying long after everyone left, just to comfort wounded dolphins or sea turtles. That passion carried her through a master's degree in marine mammal science from the University of Miami. And by the time she joined Gulf Coast's apprentice program, she'd earned a reputation for her unique bond with the animals, especially Nova. But by the start of 2015, something was shifting. Nova began showing troubling signs: restless pacing in the water, strange vocalizations in the dead of night, and a stubborn refusal to perform tricks she once did flawlessly. In March, she pinned a trainer against the pool wall during a routine drill. No one was injured, but Savannah recognized it as a dangerous turn. Through the summer, the tension grew. Nova ignored recall signals, swam erratically, and made eerie, unfamiliar sounds. Savannah logged her concerns over and over. On September 15th, she wrote a chilling note: erratic eye movements, refusal of multiple commands, and flashes of outright aggression. That same morning, Nova had slammed into the underwater viewing glass, something she had never done before. Still, with the tourist season at its peak, management made the same call every time. The shows would continue, and then came September 23rd. Before dawn, Nova's behavior spiraled. She whistled and clicked for hours, the sounds sharp and unsettling. Night trainer Derek Foster said in 8 years of working with marine mammals, he had never heard anything like it. Later, they would find out the park's filtration system had failed during the night, altering the water's chemical balance. By 11:15 in the morning, Savannah walked out to start the main show. Even the most experienced staff could feel the tension in the air. The music was upbeat. The crowd of 4,300 was buzzing, but Nova's entrance was wrong.